Live from Studio 67 in Florida's Capital County. It's time to be FACish.
Access granted.
Good people, how you doing? Welcome to the end of week 6. Feels like 16. With just 3 more to go, budgets are out. Let the fun and games begin. All right, let's get into it with the usual crew, the usual suspects. Let's go ahead and do roll call, and the question of the day is submitted by our illustrious Deputy Director. What did you collect as a kid? All right, I'm going to start like I always do with Jeff Scala. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey, Devin. Doing well. Jeff Scala, handle environment, water, agriculture, rural issues, and technology issues. As a kid of the 90s, I collected Pogs and played, of course, too.
Oh, man. All right, and I apologize. Scala. We're going to go with Scala, right? Is that right?
That's right. Or you can remember it as Chef Scallops, Jeff Scala.
I like that. Jeff Scallops. Bob likes scallops. Bob, how you doing?
Doing well.
Say hello.
All things considered.
All right.
I'm Bob McKee. I'm the Deputy Director, and I handle finance and tax and appropriations issues. As a kid, I collected other things. I got a coin still today that has Napoleon's face on it, Napoleon III. I have a stamp that was hand-canceled from 1850s, but I have still today a huge baseball card collection.
All right.
So I had about 8,000 baseball cards. I have a card from Ed Cicotte, who was banned from life in the 1918 Black Sox scandal.
Man. Bob, have you ever been banned for life from anything?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay, good. Sarah, how you doing? Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday, doing good. Sarah Henley, the policy analyst. I would say girls don't really collect as much as men, but probably Barbies, because they used to be really big during my time.
All right, no, very respectable. Ed, how you doing? Welcome to Tallahassee.
Thank you. It's great to be up here finally.
It's been good seeing you all week. What did you collect as a kid?
Well, I collected marbles. I collected bottle caps, and but most of all, I collected trophies.
That's right, because you're a champ, right?
From my judo days. Lots of trophies. I still have them all, along with the medals. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to get them organized now into somewhere in the house.
Yeah. Bob, did you hear that?
I did.
Eddie would kick your butt.
Eddie, wherever you go, judo.
Tonette Graham, how you doing today?
Good afternoon, good folk. Tonette Graham, your COVID healthcare, public safety, and justice girl. As a child growing up, I collected TY Beanie Babies.
All right. And everybody, I am Davin Suggs, Director of Public Policy. Collect is a strong word because, my attention span as a kid was, but some of my favorites, G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip. I did baseball cards. And Eddie, I too had a lot of trophies in everything. I was just, I was voted best all around in high school. So that lets you know.
Awesome.
I'm willing to take on a challenge in everything, including you, Bob. I see you looking at me like you want to challenge me in something. No. All right, guys. Week 6. I'm tired and wiped out. Not a lot of action in committee. There was more floor time this week as bills are reaching their final destination potentially, but a lot of behind-the-scenes action. The talks are getting more important and more critical, and we have budget stuff this week. So why don't we get right into the rundown? And Jeff, my favorite question is, do you know what time it is?
What time is it, Devin?
It's about to go down.
Well, I'm I'm going to first start off with a report from the floor. A few bills in the environment and water section that have passed and are heading to the governor's desk. The first is the Resilient Florida Grant Program. That bill is now heading to the governor. That sets up $100 million to fund for local projects for peril of flood and sea level rise planning. That is House Bill 7019 will be heading to the governor, and its companion 7021. Of course, that is related to the dock stamp bill, which sets up three different silos, one being Resilient Florida, the second being stormwater grants, separate from sewer projects, and then the third, the affordable housing component. Those bills are heading to the governor for his signature. Also, the bill, House Bill 217, to honor former Commissioner Kristen Jacobs, is heading to the governor. That will rename the Southeast Florida Coral Reef Ecosystem Area. In committee, we saw House Bill 263 on potable reuse, reclaimed water, was heard and cleared its final House committee. There was an amendment, but was withdrawn that would have kicked the implementation date for the ending of the surface water discharges by 2 years, 2032. Or the current language is 2030, and that amendment was withdrawn. It seems that they're still maybe trying to negotiate that, but it is heading to the floor. The Senate has already passed their bill that has a large mandate for water utilities. A few other bills that we're tracking this session, implementation of departmental rules on biosolids and on the blue-green algae task force bills, those Senate Bill 1522 and Senate Bill 7060 also cleared committee this week.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Just like I said, as we get towards the end of this thing, we're running downhill. Bills are trying to reach their final destination. So hopefully a lot of things wrapping up, and hopefully we can tint them to our favor. Thank you for that. Eddie, this is your first time doing a podcast in Tallahassee. It's a very important question I have for you. What time is it, Eddie? You know what time it is?
Absolutely.
It's about to go.
All right. Not too much going in community and urban affairs this week, but we have some bills to catch up on. First is Senate Bill 268. This is the occupational licensing bill that Senator Perry has. It passed its last committee, the Rules Committee, on Tuesday, sorry. And that's the bill that basically preempts the licensing of occupations to the state, and it ends local occupational licensing if you have an existing program as of July 1st, 2023, or unless some of the occupations that are licensed are authorized by general law. That bill is now on the calendar. Its companion measure 735 has already passed the House last Friday, 82-32. So there should be some expected floor action on that bill in the next week or so. Also, there is House Bill 741, which is the elections bill. The companion or the other measure over in the Senate is Senate Bill 90. Senate Bill 7041 makes changes to voter registration applications, signature requirements, mail ballots systems, and but it also has a provision, Section 28 of the Strike All Amendment that was approved actually last night, requires that commissioners that run in single-member districts run for election after the next redistricting is completed by the respective county commission. There is an exemption that's provided from having that applies to those commissions that have term limits, and that applies to about 10 counties in the state. But otherwise, commissioners that run from single member districts will have to run off from elections regardless of when their terms actually finish.
All right. Thank you, Eddie. And you came in town and went right to the podium. Saw you a couple times weighing in. People in the legislature miss you, and I appreciate you, buddy. Bob, let me ask you a question. How you feel with Eddie in the same building? You feel threatened?
I'm happy to have Eddie here.
All right. Good.
I was happy to drive him to the Capitol so he could go speak instead of me. And I was happy to get him home last night. So I'm really happy that Eddie's here, and I've invited him over for dinner tomorrow night.
Look at that. Teamwork. Man, I want to cry. I want to cry. Bob.
It's about to go down.
All right. A couple big things happened in the finance and tax area this week. Probably the biggest action was both the House and Senate passed Senate Bill 50, the e-fairness bill. It has now gone to the governor, or is prepared to go to the governor. They haven't actually sent it yet, but it is enrolled. The bill was amended to include a reduction in the business tax rate from 5.5% to 2%, contingent upon when the distribution to the Unemployment Compensation Trust Fund ends. So right now that's expected to take place in about 24-25. But again, that's contingent on what happens within that fund. So that's the current expectation. The bill did pass both the House and Senate and goes on to the governor. Also, this week, the Senate passed CS for SB 84, dealing with retirement. The bill would require all new state employees and all new members of the Florida retirement system, with the exception of special risk folks, to enroll in the investment plan. The bill passed the Senate and should be in messages over to the House.
All right. Thank you, Bob. And I know you got a real big thing because the budgets were done. So we'll await that. All right. Ms. Graham, how you doing today?
It's Friday, no complaints.
Let me ask you a very important question here. Having Eddie in the building, does that change your perspective of Bob at all? A little bit.
What?
Like, if you were really in trouble, like if your office caught on fire right there, would you call Bob or would you call Eddie first?
I'm going to call the Tallahassee Fire Department. I'm sorry.
Good answer. Good answer. All right. It's time for Tonette's Rundown. Hold on.
It's about to go down.
All right, in health, safety, and justice, let's tackle the big beast first. Senate Bill 2006, Emergency Management by Senator Burgess, was up on Tuesday. He ended up merging language from Senator Manny Diaz's 1924 into his as an amendment. Even with multiple failed attempts for amendments to the amendment, his bill now includes language that for the counties provide that the burden of proof lies with the political subdivisions. It will allow the governor and legislature by concurrent resolution to invalidate an emergency order. And with, in addition to the 10-day expiration periods of emergency orders, political subdivisions cannot implement or adopt the same emergency order after expiration. That bill passed after much debate, 12-5, and is heading to the Senate floor. But we have not given up hope yet. We plan to work with the sponsor and senators to make some adjustments on behalf of our counties as it heads to the Senate floor. Another one, SB 418, the Public Records and Persons Provided Public Emergency shelter bill, also by Senator Burgess. We were on his side with this one. This bill creates a public records exemption of the address and phone number of a person held by an agency during an emergency, but it will also allow their family member to locate them if necessary. That bill passed in its committee on Tuesday, and the House Companion 327 by Representative Rommel passed last week unanimously on the House floor. Last but certainly not least, Senate Bill 1412, the Traffic and Pedestrian Safety Bill by Senator Keith Perry. It was heard in its second committee of reference this week. This is the bill that requires local governments to convert flashing signals at crosswalks, not located at intersections, to traffic signals by 2024. And it requires FDOT to seek approval by the federal government and a study by October 1st, 2022. We are working with Senator Perry as well as Rep. Fine, who has the House Companion 1113 on amendment language to allow our county public works departments to get an extension, hopefully till 2030. So we'll keep you in the loop as things progress with that bill next week. That's it for me.
Hey, thank you, Tonette. Yeah, you had a busy week. Between you and Eddie, I don't know how much you're paying, Eddie, but you've been drafting amendments all week here.
Listen, Eddie is the GOAT.
You see that, Eddie? See? I tried that. Eddie, you know what that means? You know what the GOAT means, Bob? I don't think.
Greatest of all time.
All right.
Yay!
Yeah, all right. Bob just said Eddie was the greatest of all time.
That makes Bob the real MVP this
Right, Bob, you the MVP. You can be the MVP. Eddie can be the GOAT. All right. Good job, guys, on the rundown. All right, let's move right into the one big thing. Like I said, not a lot happening, but things that are happening are more major. So, I mean, I'm going to go to Bob and start with Bob because we really need to hear his one big thing.
All right, the one big thing this week was budget, and the General Revenue Estimating Conference. The House and Senate both passed their respective budgets. The Senate is hosting the budget conference this year, and so the House has done their normal procedure of stripping the Senate budget, placing theirs on it, and sending it back to the Senate. However, the Senate did not yet refuse to concur. They're not on the floor again until next Wednesday. So it looks like conferees could not be named until middle to late next week. So it looks like early next week, we won't start seeing much action on budget unless the session calendar changes. We did send out a detailed budget analysis. And so if you all have any questions on it, I'm your guy. Just a couple of high points. The House spent about $2 billion more than the Senate. But when you look at GR numbers, the GR was very close. They were only about $400 million apart on GR. And given the most recent Revenue Estimating Conference, which met Tuesday, they have about, and given that they both chambers sweep about $500 million into GR in the back of the budget, we're looking at them having about $39 billion in GR to spend, and they've spent about 35 of it. So they still have either an eye on significant reserves or a little bit of sprinkling as conference takes place.
I'm going to get in that sprinkle line. I'm going to take my hat off. Baptize me with a couple billion, right? Good job, Bob. You know, I want to get back to this Barbie issue. Sarah.
Stay away from it.
Sarah, Barbies. Which Barbie is your favorite Barbie?
See, there's a lot of different kinds of Barbies. There's like regular Barbies, then there's Bratz. I prefer the good old Barbie though. That's it. Plain and simple.
You're going to have to bring it into the office. You bring it into the office.
Did you keep any in the box?
Yes. Yeah.
That's why you collect them, Bob.
Right.
You
Right.
can collect them and play with them, or you can collect them and keep them in the original wrapping. I always made my kids keep one in the original wrapping, and boy, was it tough for them.
I know in like 30 years that Barbies will go for a lot of money. That's my hope. So I kept them around just in case.
You know
Yes,
what?
Sarah, I'm with you. That holiday collection, I'm gonna buy a Tesla with it soon.
Me too.
Sarah, did you know in 30 years, you would still be younger than what Bob is today? Did you know?
Age is just an accident of birth.
Yeah, I know.
It's
I know.
true.
All right, Sarah, people want to hear your one big thing.
All right. Thank you for that budget rundown, Bob. One thing I wanted to talk about within the budget and is super important to our rural communities was the original Senate proposal of the budget had the closure of 4 state prison facilities. Senator Perry, who is the chair of the Criminal Civil Justice Appropriations Subcommittee, filed a late amendment this week that passed, and it calls for the closure of 1 state prison facility of 1,500 beds instead of that original 4 facilities that was around 6,000 beds. It's unclear which prison will be closed, and the governor, president, and speaker will review the prison selected by September 1st, 2021, and the facility will be closed on December 31st, 2021. The original plan said that the 4 prisons had to be demolished by June 2024, but that was not included in this amendment. So some of the criteria for this closure is the age and facility maintenance of the institution, the proximity of the institution to other ones within the region, the impact of the institution closure on the local community's economy. So we will see if the prison closure is still in the final budget when it's passed at the end of session. Regardless, this could still have a negative effect on our local community and the workforce wherever that one prison closes. But it's interesting because the argument here is that the number of individuals incarcerated is low within the state right now. It's around 80,000. But prior to the pandemic, that number was around 94,000. But the Florida Department of Corrections expects that rate to increase as court operations are backed up due to COVID. And once normal operations come back, they're expecting that number to rise again, which would eventually create a conflict if we start closing prisons.
Nope, we got to keep them open. Nothing. Thank you for that report. And that one's going to go down to the wire. So I may ask you to follow up, sir, in the next couple of weeks.
Will do.
Eddie, this is your first one big thing in Tallahassee.
In Tallahassee.
I'm just going to hit the button and let you talk.
One
All right.
thing.
The one big thing for today has to do with committee substitute for House Bill 1053. This bill allows the Attorney General to designate matters of great governmental concern. Basically, the bill authorizes the AG to declare a matter of great governmental concern and gives the AG a specific amount of time in which to file a civil action in a case that may have been already filed by a city or a county. The bill actually applies whenever there is economic loss to the citizens of the state, and that economic loss is in at least 5 of the state's 67 counties. Basically, the bill requires that every single time a political subdivision files a civil action in state court, notice has to be provided to the Attorney General. The Attorney General then has about 180 days to review the notice and determine whether or not the matter that's involved constitutes a matter of great governmental concern. And if the AG determines that it does, then they have to publish notice on their official website and serve notice to the political subdivisions that may have filed the civil actions on that matter. It gives then the Attorney General up to a year to actually file a civil action on behalf of the state's citizens in that matter. And that has, once that's done, then the political subdivisions have to file notice with the court that such a matter has been declared a great governmental concern, and that actually serves to stay the proceedings in the cases that have been filed by political subdivisions. The bill provides for any recoveries to go to the general fund rather than to specific political subdivisions, because this the AG's action would be filed on behalf of the state, on behalf of the citizens of the state, in what they call a parens patriae doctrine lawsuit, and it would not be an action brought on behalf of the political subdivisions that may have been damaged by the particular actions of a corporate entity in the matter. The legislature then gets to decide how to appropriate those monies, and the bill authorizes the court to dismiss any lawsuits that have been filed by political subdivisions once a matter of great governmental concern is settled, resolved, or a final judgment is issued in the case brought by the Attorney General. So that was the one big thing. There was a lot of testimony, including FAC testified in opposition to the bill. We had certain issues that were raised, not only about the fact that notice has to be provided in every single civil action, which seems rather broad. So some of the members actually requested that the bill sponsor, Representative Oberdorf, actually think about narrowing the types of civil actions that notice would be provided for, perhaps maybe even providing a dollars threshold. There was also, the bill has another flaw, and that is there is no criteria upon how the Attorney General is to determine what is a great governmental concern. So it was suggested that there be some criteria put in the bill to make that determination, and also to provide an avenue for there to be a challenge to that determination by the political subdivisions whose lawsuits are going to be affected. This bill has a couple more committees to go. Civil Justice and Property Rights Subcommittee, which approved the bill, 11-7 was just its first committee. It still has to go to Local Administration and Veterans Affairs, and ultimately the Judiciary Committee. Question is there enough time to get it through those committees, which are quickly starting not to meet?
Yeah, you were right.
That's
Eddie.
it.
Thank you. Eddie, you were right. The clock is ticking, but that's when the trickery begins. All right, we got two more one big things. Jeff, I'm going to let you go, and then I'm going to let Tanette go. And then we're just going to get out of here because, look, we got to get started on week 7 already. So, Jeff, the people want to hear your one big thing.
Well, the biggest and best thing that happened this week was on the Senate floor when they took up Senate Resolution 2046 honoring the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just kidding. On all seriousness, biggest thing this week was broadband. There were multiple broadband bills, 3 that we are tracking very closely. Senate Bill 1560 by Senator Osley. This is the bill that would set up a broadband task force and also require the Office of Broadband to update GIS maps annually on access to broadband. It also has a component on an opportunity grant program. That bill was heard in Senate Ed and was passed unanimously. FAC weighed in support. And that day in Senate Bill 2004 by Senator Burgess, broadband internet, was heard for the second time and also passed with support from both FAC and the Small County Coalition. This is the bill that provides $1.4 million to the Office of Broadband to continue a broadband feasibility study and their strategic plan. There was some concern that the date that they need to submit this plan by June 30th of 2022 is, time is of the essence here. And, the longer that we wait just to get a feasibility study, we want to just make sure that the Office of Broadband has the resources to continue the good work of expanding broadband access. Third bill, House Bill 1239 by Representative Tonko, was heard in the House Ways and Means Committee. This is a bill that had a large sales tax incentive piece that was valued at $92 million. Well, the sales tax incentive piece was removed during committee. We've talked about this previously. It did not have any metrics or accountability measures to really, truly quantify how broadband would be expanded in rural areas or underserved, unserved areas. So those provisions, at least on the House side, have been removed. Senator Burgess has its companion, and there were questions last week that we discussed about that accountability piece. We'll continue to monitor how that bill moves forward. So now the bill is solely about the municipal electric utility poles and setting up a procedure for the internet service providers to attach to those poles, setting the rates, terms, and conditions for doing so. Broadband will continue to be a focus here down the stretch for FAC with our Access 67 initiative. Even bills like House Bill 985 by Representative Schoaf that try to identify the number of students that don't have internet and are, caught in these in the digital divide. I'll go towards just understanding the problem and delivering an expansion of broadband access. So we'll continue to work with the sponsors on all these bills.
Jeff, thank you. You've been heavy on this broadband stuff, and something's going to happen. I mean, it's a lot.
Something will happen, yes.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure we're going to hear about this again. We got 3 weeks to go. I'm confident you can bring it on home. All right. Keep up the good work. Ms. Graham, how you doing? The people are very interested in your one big thing.
One big thing this week is none other than HB1, the anti-riot bill. As we know, it passed on March 26th on the House floor, 76-39, and it is currently, as we speak, in Senate Appropriations. They are meeting and discussing it now, and it is scheduled to run into tomorrow. So make sure you follow us at Florida Clownies on Twitter for updates, and we'll update you early next week as things move forward with that to let you know how it turns out.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. Yeah, I think they're going to be there for at least 48 hours. I think they have it scheduled as we're talking now and for the next day. So we'll see. That's going to be interesting as we get down. These last 3 weeks is going to make for good television and good podcasting as well. All right. It's been busy. A lot of mental capacity utilized this week. I appreciate all of you guys and all the folks out there. We're going to try something a little bit different. I need the last word from everybody, and then I'm going to let Tonette close it out. See if you guys listen to me. So I'll start with Jeff. You got any last thoughts on week 6?
Just preparing for the final stretch. Few more weeks to go.
All right, and don't think I didn't hear those Tampa Bay Buccaneer comments. I'm gonna put a little note in your with your check next week. All right.
Bringing back the whole team.
Sarah, you got any last words?
Go Gators for Gator Day.
And the chomp, I learned, is right hand over left.
It is.
All right.
Right over left.
All right, Bob and the Bulls. Those USF Bulls. Don't disrespect Sarah. Okay. Eddie, you got any last words?
Just looking forward to the end.
All right. But I need you to stay in Tallahassee a little bit. You just got here. Don't want to go
I
home.
will be here. I will be.
Bob, you got any last words?
Sure. First, just to give Sarah and Tanette hope, in 1993, I sold 7 baseball cards to pay for 4 tickets to the World Series. Unfortunately, the Braves lost to the Phillies in the playoffs. That's part of the reason I hate the Phillies. But the last word for this week is money, money, money.
That's
Yes,
right.
we now move from policy to budget.
All right. And my last words, I'm going to go and then I'll let Tonette take us out. I'm just appreciative, and everybody gear up and tie your shoelaces tight. It's going to be a lot. You know, these first 6 weeks and 5 committee weeks, we're in 11 deep with 3 more to go. All right. So everybody hang with us. Tonette, it's all yours.
All right, good folks. I think my word for this week would have to be, or my lesson learned that I've learned from this phenomenal team that I work with, is grit. I definitely learned that this week. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Eddie, for putting up with me. But I'm learning in the process is not how you start, it's how you finish. You just have to run your race, and that is progress. It's not perfection. And then in the end, you'll get there eventually. All right, good folks. That's it for us this week. Always remember, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the wrong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. On behalf of your favorite local public policy team, Sarah, Jeff, Tonette, Eddie, Bob, and our director, but I think his most important role is Pickle's dad, Davin J. Suggs. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.